All right, today we are diving into one of the most fundamental, most powerful skills in all of SQL, how to pick out the exact rows you want from a table. Now, it might sound simple, but trust me, this is the key that transforms how you deal with data. It turns you from someone who just looks at data into someone who can actually investigate. We have all had this feeling, right? You're staring at this massive table, thousands, maybe millions of rows, and you're trying to find something specific. How in the world do you cut through all that noise to find the one piece of information you actually need? Well, the answer is SQL. And the best way to think about it is like you're learning a new language. Once you get the basics down, you can stop just staring at a wall of numbers and start having a real conversation with your database, asking it for exactly what you need. Every language, of course, starts with vocabulary. And in SQL, our most basic words are called operators. These are the building blocks we're going to use to build all of our questions. So, what is an operator? Simply put, it's a symbol that does something. It's like the verb in our SQL sentence. It takes a couple of values, which we call operands, and it performs some kind of calculation or comparison, and then it gives you a single, clear result. Let's start with the easy ones, the ones you definitely already know from math class. These are the operators we use for all our basic number crunching. And here they are, the usual suspects. You've got your addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. No surprises there. The one that might be new to you is modulo, that little percent sign. All it does is give you the remainder after a division. So 5 divided by 2 is 2, with a remainder of 1. That's your modulo. Simple as that. All right, now for the operators that help us compare things. This is where SQL starts to get really, really useful for filtering our data. Now, what's really important here is that results column. Notice something? Every single one of these, equal, not equal, less than, greater than, every time the result is either true or false. This is so important. These operators don't give you a number back. They give you a simple yes or no answer. And that is exactly what we need to decide if a row belongs in our results. Okay, so we can do math and we can compare things, but what if we need to combine a few different comparisons together? Well, that's where our last group of operators comes into play. Think of these logical operators as the glue that holds our conditions together. And is strict. It needs both conditions to be true. Or is a lot more relaxed. It only needs one of them to be true. And then there's not, which is the easiest of all. It just flips true to false and false back to true. Okay, so we have our vocabulary, our operators. Now it's time to start putting them together to form complete thoughts, or what SQL calls expressions. This is where we take our new words and build some really powerful sentences. An expression is really just a combination of the operators we just learned and our actual data, whether that's a column name like salary or a specific value like marketing. The really key part is that this whole phrase gets crunched down by the database until it becomes a single value, usually true or false. That is a fantastic question. If you've got this complex expression with multiplication and comparisons and an AND operator, what's the right order to do things? And does it even matter? Oh yeah, it absolutely matters. So just like you learned PEMDAS back in school, SQL has its own strict set of rules, and we call it operator precedence. It's basically a built-in hierarchy that tells the database exactly which operator to deal with first, second, third, and so on. And this is a perfect way to see it in action. Look at that starting expression. SQL doesn't just go left to right. First, it dives right into those parentheses. It does the multiplication before the addition, so we get 67.50. Okay, step 1 done. Then it checks the comparisons. Is the status platinum? Yep, that's true. Is 67.50 greater than 100? Nope, that's false. So now our whole expression has been boiled down to true and false. And since AND needs both sides to be true, the final answer is false. So we've learned the vocabulary and we've learned the grammar. Now it's time for the big payoff. Let's put these powerful expressions to work to ask real questions and filter our data using the where clause. The where clause is basically the bouncer for your data. For every single row in your table, it looks at your expression, figures out if it's true or false, and if the result is true, it lets the row in. If it's false, that row gets turned away. It's really that simple. Okay, let's try a real-world example. A simple, clear question, just like you'd ask a person. We want to find the smaller cities in our database. And boom, here's the translation into SQL. It's almost a perfect match. Select everything from the city table where our expression, population less than 15,000, is true. That's it. That is your conversation with the data. Let's try one more. This time, we want to exclude something. We want a list of cities, but we don't care about any of the ones in Chile. And again, look how direct the SQL is. We select the name from the city table, but we only include rows where the country code, using that not equal to operator we saw earlier, is not CHL. We've just asked a pretty specific question with a single, clear line of code. By understanding just these three things, operators, expressions, and the where clause, you've completely changed your relationship with data. I absolutely love this quote because it just nails the shift in thinking. You've gone from being a passive observer to an active participant. You can now interrogate your data to get exactly what you need. So just think for a second about what you can do now. You've got the essential vocabulary of operators. You know how to combine them into these powerful expressions. You get that SQL has a specific order for doing things. And most importantly, you can now use the where clause to filter any table with incredible precision. This is the foundation for almost everything else you're going to do in SQL. You now have the tools to ask these incredibly specific and powerful questions. So the only thing left to ask is, what secrets are hiding in your data just waiting for you to find them?